Back at it for another week. This is the Blonde But Now I See Show. I am your host, FOBC Note, the Hood Ray Charles, Blonde Papi if you nasty. But today I definitely got a special guest, like a special guest. Pretty much, she helped me with my first LLC, helped me get on the business path. Going to her classes definitely made me business savvy. I got a question I can always text, and she always there. You can introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Chris. I'm Tashayla. I am a licensed therapist. I also do business classes, as Chris said, write books, and pretty much anything that I want to do in terms of passion. So I would be considered, I guess, a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah, the list still goes on. It definitely goes on. It don't stop there. She'll definitely tell you the right things to go about. If you're trying to start anything, nonprofits, that's what I'm in the process of doing right now. And you definitely will be getting that text message real soon.
I look forward to it.
So today, today is a mental health episode. It's mental health month, so we're gonna acknowledge that. There's a lot of people at home that's suffering with mental health. So hopefully this episode right here will touch you and give you that step closer to healing whatever y'all going through. So today we're going to close our eyes. We're going to walk down this path. We ain't going to flip over no furniture. We ain't going to bump into no walls. We ain't going to knock the TV down. We ain't going to step on Tati and the twins. And I'm going to just let you take the wheel.
Thank you. Thank you. I was telling Chris that I was trying to think of one significant period where I was blind and then I see, but I think that it's something that I'm constantly in a state of reflecting, thinking that my eyes are open, but really they're closed, and God just continues to reveal things to me. So I want to do 5 short instances or experiences that I think contributed to my passion of where I am today in educating people about mental health, supporting people on their business journeys, and where that stemmed from. So I think my earliest memory would be in middle school. And one of the things that I would do, and actually it wasn't until I started thinking about this interview, and I've done plenty of interviews, but a lot of them were just surface stuff, just based on what I do professionally, and it wasn't a mix of professionally and personal. So this interview actually triggered for me kind of this sequence of things. The first memory I have is when I was in middle school, I would go around and I would look at people who were alone or by themselves, and I would just every recess, I would say, I'm going to talk to somebody new or talk to somebody who feels like they're just not in a good space. So I would do that every time. And so one time it was this gentleman who everyone liked in the school. He was new, but he was by himself. So I just began talking to him, not about anything in particular, but just like how he was doing and just like surface stuff. And so then after that, he decided that he wanted to start walking around with me each time. At the time, I didn't think about being a therapist or social worker. I just didn't want people to feel alone. So he would go around and he would come with me to talk to people. What I didn't know is that there were people in his neighborhood that liked him, that was claiming him, wanted to be with him. And they decided they were going to jump me because I was essentially bringing him along for the ride for me and taking away from the time where he could be flirting with them. So that situation ended up resolving itself because he decided, I don't want them to do anything. I don't want them to jump you. And they were following me. And I'm like, look, I'm just trying to help people. Like, I'm not trying to get with him. So, but that situation, even though it was very minor, I think it was the beginning of me finding my passion. And I didn't even realize it. So fast forward, high school, and there were things in between time, but I'm just doing like the significant periods that led up to me being a therapist. I had an incident with a family member, and I think that this shaped a lot of who I am, just simply because this was a family member who I was really close with. And in my mind, you expect people who are not your family to kind of do you over. Like, that's just what you expect. But for your family, it's a different thing. So he was a minister at a church. And so like any family member, you go and you support. But I didn't realize that this church was a cult. So they were doing things like they wanted people to shout on demand and do this, turn around, do that. And I had a relationship with God, and that just wasn't what it was. So I just stood there. So I'm standing there in the midst of maybe like 300 people who were kind of being puppets. And so this family member looked at me and came to me and whispered and told me that I better do it. So I'm the type of person, you tell me to do something and you tell me to threaten away, I'm going to do the exact opposite. So I didn't do it. I just stood there like, oh no, this is crazy. I didn't realize this what this was. So from there, we leave out the church. He proceeds to knock me out, knock my siblings out because they were following me. We have to get in the car with him. He asked me a question. I guess he couldn't hear me and respond to him. So he proceeds to pull me out of a vehicle and fight me like a man. In this instance, I was thinking to run away, but my siblings were in the car, and I'm the oldest of 5, so I wasn't going to leave them. And there were people on the street, and it was a street similar. I grew up in D.C., and it was a street similar to, let's say, Fulton Street, where there are people out, and people were just laughing. And I'm thinking like, shoot, do I run? What do I do? So we end up getting back in the car. I go home, and for the first time, when I lay down, my arm gets dislocated, the first out of thousands of times after that. And after that, I just had like this anger and this hurt and sadness. So I felt like I needed to protect myself. So I started, my boyfriend at the time gave me a knife, and tried to teach me how to use it, and I would carry it and didn't think anything of it. I just knew that if the opportunity happened again, because this was a close family member, had the keys in my house, so I'm staying up and I'm ready every night, that I wasn't thinking about any consequences. I was just going to do it. I went to a school, however, that was on GW's campus, and I was 16 years old and really didn't have like structured classes. Like you would go to class, they would say like, okay, instead of class, go hop on the subway, go to the history museum, and, complete these assignments. So I went and didn't realize I had the knife in my bag. Now in DC, when you commit a crime, it's a federal crime. This was during 9/11. I go in trying to do my assignment. They run my bag through the metal detector, and I say, what's going on? Because I noticed it's taking a long time, and they run it again. Next thing I know, my cousin's husband's cousin is an officer. He comes around and he says, hey, and I'm thinking like he just saying hey to me because, we hadn't seen each other. And he was like, I need to talk to you outside. He was like, they found a knife in your bag. He said, I noticed who you were. He said, I'm trying to talk to them to let you go, but they trying to give you a terrorist charge. I'm like, terrorist charge? Like, I'm just trying to protect myself from something that nobody, even people close to me, even now, even to this day, don't even know what was going on. And I'm like, terrorist charge? He said, look, I'm going to give you your bag back. Throw the knife in these bushes and come back in. Do your assignment. Keep it pushing. After that, I realized what God did for me. And that was, I got favored in that moment because I wasn't thinking about this knife in my bag. I was just trying to do my schoolwork, and the knife was just something that I felt like I needed at the time. So fast forward, we go to college, undergraduate. I ended up in a class called addiction counseling. It was an elective. I didn't think anything of it. Just knew I needed to do something for the end. That class was pivotal for me because what it showed me was, in between that time, I had learned that this family member was severely on coke, and I didn't know that they were. And so it made sense to me because it started describing the family roles of addiction. And this is family roles of addiction, whether it's your close family member, your immediate family member, your distant family member, your roles and what you play. And it resonated with me because I saw myself in those roles. I saw my family members. I saw my friends in those roles. And I said, you know what? When I graduate, this is what I want to do. So graduated undergrad, tried to get a job. The only job I could get as an addiction counselor was in a maximum security prison. I had never been in a prison before, but the moment I stepped in there, I knew I was supposed to be there. I had people who looked like me, were my same age, younger than me, and were just struggling to manage addictions. And a lot of people in the program I was in was not just like using. A lot of them were drug dealers, and most of them were gang members. And what I learned from that is they would always ask me, they were like, well, you don't use drugs. Like, how do you know, how we feel, what we do? And what I found was that it wasn't even that they wanted to use drugs. They were trying to manage anxiety. They were trying to manage depression. They were trying to manage fear. All these things that we have naturally, and all these things as minorities, we taught to just hold in, or just, go to church, or, don't address it, just get over it, be a man. And so I went back to school for mental health counseling, and that's where my eyes really opened, because I realized my entire life I was very comfortable with helping and supporting other people. But this told me that I can't just support other people and not address my own stuff. So I had a class that the teacher said, you know what, I do trauma therapy. I work with people who are in crisis, and I utilize something called music therapy. And she gave us like these words to use. And she said, when you're experiencing fear, or you're thinking about your future, what comes to mind. So a girl in the class said, I think about the song from Beyonce, I Am Here. And she said, and I was like, oh, I love that song. And she was like, sing it. So we both looked at each other like, this is a counseling class. What do you mean sing it? So we sung the song, and she was like, tell me how you feel as you singing it. And so we started telling her, and she was like, welcome to music therapy. And I was like, that's what I want to do. And so we can open our eyes now.
Wow, nice. Definitely appreciate you sharing those experiences with us. But we're going to rewind back to the part when you said I believe your uncle was the one that abused you from the whole church cult thing. At that time, did you develop any like mental health diseases like PTSD to like today?
I didn't have PTSD, but we have other diagnoses called acute stress disorder that is very similar to PTSD. PTSD is where you're experiencing dreams, it's impacting your daily functioning. You continue to replay it in your mind as if it's actually happening. Did I have periods like that? Yes. But it wasn't significant periods, not enough to have a PTSD diagnosis, but I definitely can say that it was acute stress. It definitely was anxiety, because I literally would stay up, which my mom was like, y'all not going with him no more, don't worry about it. But I still was worried about it, because you was not about to get me again.
Yeah,
so,
understandable.
So yeah, there definitely was some mental health things going on in there, and I didn't even realize it.
How did you overcome it?
To be honest, I think I probably did not overcome it until 3 years ago, and I was 16. And that's because he came back into our lives, because him and my mom started to redevelop their relationship. And I debated back and forth, but I said, you know what? I'm not going to hell for you. So I know that I have to come to a point of forgiveness. But my husband was having a hard time with it, because I've been with my husband since I was 19. So like he knew like everything
that was going on.
So he was like, I can't be around this man and not say something to him. He was like, we're not going to say nothing to him. So my husband ends up saying something to him. And he comes to me. I remember we were leaving my mom's house. I'm in the car, and he like ran out, because I guess my husband had just talked to him about it. And he said, I need to apologize to you. He said, because, he told me that I violated you. And he was like, I never realized why we disconnected. He was like, but, he told me that I violated you, and I just really want to apologize. And I really don't remember. And in my mind, this whole time, I'm thinking that he remembered and was just trying to play games and just wanted me to just get over it. It never crossed my mind that he didn't remember. Yeah, so I think that was when I got over it for real, because it was like I looked at it differently.
Yeah, that's second opinion on it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. like then we go on fast forward when you said when you stepped into the jails, you felt like that was your calling. What what made you feel that way, that like being in that maximum security opened the doors for you to say, I want to be a therapist?
Yeah, it's a funny story. There's so many funny stories in between this. My first day walking in the maximum security prison, I remember it was this woman. She was an addiction counselor. As soon as I literally, like how you know how you start your new job, you open the door and people like greet you like, hey, you know, welcome. You know, the first thing she said to me is, why you here? I was like, she was like, you young. She was like, you obviously smart. Why are you here? And I was just like, because I want to be here. So that right there, I was like, okay, what's this about to be about? But then after that, we went into, and they, at this program, it was dorms. So it was like 60 guys in a dorm. So we went into the dorms, and then from there, I think that was the first time I saw so many young, medium, and older men, black men, in a small situation like that. And it did something to me because like you hear about it, like, you know, a lot of us are overcrowded in the jail, and, we are basically, we are targeted to be put in these jails. 100%. You hear these things, but when you see it, it's a different feel. When I was there and I just kind of saw the stories, I have so many stories of guys. Like I had a guy who, he was a high ranking gang member, and he would always, like, I would try to meet with him and he'll be like, nah, you don't want to talk to me, I'm a bad man. Yeah. And I'm like, what you mean you're a bad man? He was like, if I told you the stuff I did, you wouldn't even want to talk to me. So like every day I would go in, I'd be like, hey, good guy. He'll be like, what you mean, good guy? I'm like, I'm going to tell you that till you believe it. So it just felt like I was supposed to be there because they have so many people in these positions, whether it's jail, whether it's in any other situation where you have a lot of minorities, where we're in a place where we're not supposed to be. You have a lot of people coming in that don't look like you. Yeah. So I found that, and I've got denied jobs because they told me like, oh, you look too young. We don't know if they're going to respect you. So the thing that was supposed to be a barrier for me was the thing that worked for me, because they were like, oh, you look like us. We feel like we can trust you. You're one of us. Yeah. So I definitely feel comfortable. A lot of people open up more. Absolutely. In a place where you probably not supposed to open up. Yeah.
Do you feel like more programs are needed into jails?
Absolutely.
Like, do you feel like they just thrown in there and forgotten?
I think a lot of people feel forgotten, and the other part of my story is from there I developed programs starting, and I was in DC, but a lot of the bigger jails were in Maryland, so I developed programs from that class as soon as I got out. And if anybody knows about becoming a clinical therapist, like you have to have a period where you stop and you don't have to work. So like me and my husband were broke, and I was like, hey, we about to start this business. I know I got negative $5 in a bank account, but we about to start this business.
The struggle.
And he was like, okay. I know, and I told him, I said, why you just say okay, knowing that faith-wise, yeah, I get it. Like, say okay.
Financial-wise.
Right. Why would you? He was like, because I know if I said no, you was going to do it anyway. I'm like, you right. You sure right. Yeah, sure. I would have figured out a way with 1 cent. But
that's how you're supposed to, though.
Yeah. So we had those programs, and one day I was watching Law and Order. They kept talking about Rikers, and I just Googled Rikers, and I didn't think nothing was coming of it. And they were like, oh, come on and come to Rikers and present the program that you've been doing in Baltimore. So I did, and they were like, we need you to start 2 weeks later. We didn't know nobody here. We didn't have a place here. But we drove from D.C. to New York every day for a year and a half to go to Rikers. Because, again...
Every day?
We didn't go every day. We went every week. Oh, every week. We would go on the weekend. So we would leave at 5 in the morning. We had to be at the program at 10 a.m.
Okay.
So we would leave and we would do this. Sometimes we would stay 2 days, but then they started wanting us to come more. So eventually we had to move here. Yeah. But it was because we had guys in another room where we're doing and what we would do is we would do like ciphers with them about anxiety. So for 2 hours, just imagine we sitting in Rikers, the guys all in a circle and they rapping for 2 hours. And so you'll hear people next door beating. And one day I'm like, what is the beating about? And the officers was like, they beating because they want y'all to come over there too. And I was like, oh, okay. So
Like
that kind of, right. So that motivated us. But they would say to us, they were like, y'all came here for us? Y'all drove all the way to DC, from DC for us? And we'd be like, why not?
Show that y'all care. 'Cause that's when you thrown in there, it's like, you just a number.
Exactly.
I feel like a lot of people develop mental health by going to jail.
Absolutely. Because you have to be a different person. When I'm working in the jail, I'm a different person. Yeah, you have to be. You have to be.
Do you feel like the system should probably try to get more people help than to throw them in jails?
Absolutely. I think that there needs to be a better screening system, because a lot of times you throw these guys in here and you don't understand that they've been dealing with anxiety their entire life. They've dealt with gun violence. They dealt with drugs. They dealt with having to raise themselves to from 10, 11 years old. What do you think is going to happen? So if you're
really making them worse.
Absolutely. So programs are needed. Going back to your question, programs are needed. Individualized programs are needed, and not programs because a lot of times jails will have programs, but it's programs that they think are appropriate. And I have to be honest with you, there was a jail that I had, like I was doing jails in Baltimore, but I went to the suburbs, and there was a jail that told me that first they told me I couldn't have any music with curse words. Now, I don't personally curse, but if that's what somebody needs to express themselves, I'm not worried about what you're saying. So they told me no curse words. So I'm like, okay. So we cleaned the music up. Then they come back and they said instrumentals. So I cut the contract off.
Yeah.
And I had to do that, and I loved the clients that I had at that jail, but people have to understand that when you saying that, just like if you're giving somebody a gift, you don't give somebody a gift that you want to give them.
Yeah.
You give them a gift that they want, can use, or need.
Understandable. So pretty much it was like they was cutting them off for what they really needed. Mm-hmm. They was limited them. Pretty much it's like they wanted them to stay down.
I don't think that they wanted them to stay down. I think that people have an idea of what it means to be rehabilitated.
Yeah.
And that you stay in the straight and narrow, you go to school, entrepreneurship is not the option. You get a straight job, you get your CDL or something like that. You don't curse. You know, all of these, you don't listen to rap music
It's
because
pretty much like they got your life written out how it's supposed to be.
Absolutely. And and the type of therapy I do, I'm considered a person-centered therapy, meaning that I provide a non-judgmental environment and I meet people where they are. Yeah. And I think that really coincides with my personality, because I want people to find their own way. If you decide that you don't want to listen to a certain type of music, fine. I like drill music. I like rap music.
Sometimes it's really therapy though.
It really is. I'm from DC. I like go-go. So like if I'm feeling angry, like a part of my, like I have my clients all the time make a crisis playlist, and that's just a playlist of songs that every time you hear that first beat, you like, hey, that's my song. Yeah. So I have that with go-go. And if you don't know what go-go is, it's just it's rap music. A lot of times it's rap and drill, and it's a lot of percussion. So it's like live music. So when I'm feeling angry, upset, I'm putting my headphones in and listening to go-go.
And it gets you through the day.
It does.
I really understand that music really therapy. Music really got me through a lot of hard times. Yeah. So I definitely see, out of all the therapists, what pinpointed to say, music. I know you went to the class and the therapist pretty much had y'all sing the Beyonce song. But what made you feel like this is for me? Like instead of being a therapist where you could lay across the couch and just tell me your problems.
So I you know what? I feel like that hit the light switch for me, because after that, like, I feel like a battery was put in my back. I ended up writing my first grant July 2014. Got my first one in August, so like a month later. And from there, I started, I got my first therapy office, and I had a couch, but I also had drums. I had a guitar, I had a keyboard. So when people come in, like, you're like, is this a therapy office or a studio? It's both. what you want to do.
How you want to express yourself.
Right. So I think it's something that I've always used, like throughout my life. And as I think about the individual things that I did, it was always there. So it was just kind of like bringing it together for me. Then when I went in the prison and I saw how people were responding to it, and for all my experience up until 2015, I only worked with men, but I got an opportunity to work with women. And I think that, not saying that I didn't get it then, but it was just so many different experiences, but this was significant. At first I couldn't get an approval for an iPad or anything to come in, so they wanted me to burn stuff on CDs to come in. So I had this girl always saying like, hey, can you burn me a CD? Can you bring Yolanda Adams? I'm here. And I would always forget because, to be honest, I was not tech savvy about how to burn CDs no more. I just wanted to bring in the iPad. Yeah.
Low and keep it going.
Right. So I finally got it, and I went into a session, and she was like, all right, I want to tell y'all my story. So we playing the song, and if you're familiar, Yolanda Adams, I'm Here, is playing in the background. And she starts talking about like, yeah, you know, I was dating my baby's father. Her baby at the time was like 2 months. She said we had broken up. She said I was with somebody else. She said I was having sex with him, and my baby father jumped through the window and started stabbing him and stabbing me. Dad. And so she started showing her arms doing, like, we never noticed her arms doing this whole time. She started showing us her arms with these really thick gashes. And she was like, she said, when the police came, he told them that they was working together. And she told him that she wanted him to kill the guy. And she said they didn't pay attention to the gashes on her or defensive wounds, that they just put her in jail and said, okay, you conspired with him to kill this guy. So she said she was going through so much depression, wanting to kill herself, thinking about her baby, all these things. And all they were concerned about was the fact that you killed this man. And so she said, I didn't do it. She said, but like the song says, I'm going to be ready for whatever they have coming for me. And so during this time is when I was going back and forth to Rikers. And then when I would come back, I would go to that jail. But that time was significant because as she was talking, this was a room of maybe like 30 to 40 women, all ages, young to old, and everybody was just crying. You had people crying. You had people lifting up their hands to God. You had people shouting in the jail. And I was just sitting there like, I was just crying. And I'm usually able to like keep like my composure. Like I've had clients cry and be upset, and like I trained myself to just be a support to them and not get involved with it so they can have their moment, but I couldn't.
Something you couldn't hold.
I couldn't hold it, just seeing like that scene, and I can still see that scene of just all these women just having these different experiences in this moment based on the story she was telling. So I think, and there's been several experiences, like I said, the cipher experiences with the guys, like and the stuff that they were saying in the ciphers, like all those experiences, I think were reminders and triggered in me that this is what I'm supposed to do.
How do you keep a level-headed, like after listening to all these different stories and knowing that you got to go home? Like, how do you cope with that? How do you deal with that?
Music, I'm telling you.
Music?
So I had a client that messed me up, like, which is hard to do because I've heard a bunch of stuff. Like I've done a lot of work with sex offenders, so I've heard like some stuff that probably you don't want to hear. But I had a client recently tell me like, yeah, you know, before I met you, which I think we had been working together 2 months to them. Mm-hmm. She was like, she said, I know I would be dead if I didn't meet you. And I'm like, what? If you didn't meet me, you would be dead? And I was like, and I always tell the clients, like, no, you put in the work you do. And she was like, no. She said, I'm letting you know right now, I didn't have a reason to live. She said, I would be dead if it wasn't because of you. And so, like, I didn't realize that was going to mess me up. But, like, right after, like, I told my husband, like, you know, I need a minute. So I just took hours and I just listened to Go-Go.
That's strong. You don't feel you need a therapist after all of this?
You do. You do. Absolutely. One of the things that I love about being a therapist is that it's encouraged that you constantly evaluate and reflect on yourself. And they don't tell you have to have a therapist, but they tell you that you should, and you should, because where's this information going to go?
It's balled up inside.
Absolutely. So yeah.
Cause I know I went like early on into my trauma. I went to a therapist and I felt it wasn't strong enough for me. Every day I'm going there, he just asking me random questions, and I'm like, okay, why is it's like I felt like he was just sucking up my Medicaid until like it was really one day. He said, you come in here tough every day. I'm gonna crack you today. I said you could try it because it seemed like every day I'm coming here, I'm going out the same. It's not working. And he had me to describe how my son looked, and I'm like, I ain't seen my son in 5 years. How you asking me that? He said, what you remember him as? And from that moment of me describing it, tears start coming down. He said, you ain't that tough as you thought you was. I said, yeah, you're cool. I will not be here next week. So I feel like a lot of people run from their problems. Like I feel like a lot of people don't take they mental health serious.
Right.
And I figure I was one of them. Because I ran from when he broke through the tough skin of me. And that's when I came close to the whole suicide attempt. So, in your opinion, how do you, like, in your opinion, going to a social worker, a therapist, how important is that?
I think it's super important, but I think what people forget is that just like how in relationships and friendships, you have to mesh well with the person. A lot of times we get assigned to therapists and we think that that's the only therapist and that's the only outlook. I tell my clients all the time, if it's not working for us, if we're not meshing well together, I will help you find somebody else. Because the way this relationship works is that we have to be on the same page and you have to trust me. And if you don't trust me, it's not going to work. Different therapists have different methods. Just like I identified that I'm a person-centered therapist.
Yeah.
Some people solution-focused. Some people CBT. People have different methods and different styles. So you have to find that person that meshes well with you. Somebody who has dealt with trauma may mesh well with me or may not mesh well with me because I'm transparent. And so if I've had clients who've had sexual trauma that gets upset that I've dealt with clients who are sex offenders. And I have to tell them, if I don't treat them, it's going to be more of you.
Yeah.
So you have to think about, is this a person I'm just not getting along well with, or are they telling me something I don't want to know? I have clients that I've had for a long time, and we've had some up and down rough periods. And I tell them, if something is crazy, tell me, Shayla, I think that sounds crazy. But know that it's coming from a place of love and support. Mm-hmm. If you don't feel that it's coming from a place of love and support, you need to be able to verbalize that. On my site, even starting off before you get to finding a therapist, some people don't even know the questions to ask to see if initially there's a connection. So I offer a free template for people to say, when you call a therapist to set up an appointment, every therapist is going to give you a free consultation for 10 minutes. Okay. Ask these 3 to 4 questions. These 3 to 4 questions is going to tell you if there's a connection. There may have been you may have needed him to do that, but that may have been a little too harsh for you. It could have been done a different way.
Yeah.
You could have done that same thing using a Meek Mill song.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? 100%. So it's not that he wasn't doing, like, I would never tell somebody, this is just me personally, I'm going to crack you. No, you're going to crack yourself.
Yeah.
You know, but again, that has to do with style. So yeah, everybody could benefit from a therapist, but you need the therapist that's the right match.
Okay. Plus, I felt like it really was no connection. He was an older Caucasian guy. I felt like it really was no connection between us.
Yeah.
Because he asking me how it is being in the hood. And I'm like, you really
like, no. You
couldn't connect to me because when you leave here, across the street from Methodist, you going somewhere where you're in your gated community. So how can we relate to each other?
Yeah,
I really felt.
Yeah, so that may have been... And cultural competency is important. It's not to say that somebody who doesn't have the same background as you cannot have competency. But at that time, you didn't need to revert back to me telling you about my background. You need to address what my trauma is right now. Yeah. And I think that probably was frustrating for you.
Nah, because he's like, yeah, you got shot. I can't imagine. The only hurt I got is when I fell off the bike. And I'm just out there like, is this supposed to be a joke? Or you really trying to compare our pain together?
That's inappropriate.
It just don't mix.
Yeah.
So where can people, like, what's the website that people could go on to get this information?
So my website is www.minorityminds, and that's minds spelled MINDZ, inc.org. If you look under resources, you'll be able to download how to do a consultation with a therapist. It also breaks down, because a lot of times people don't understand the difference between a psychiatrist and a therapist. A lot of times people go to the psychiatrist because they know they need to be medicated because maybe they have bipolar, schizophrenia, and they're like, yeah, my psychiatrist don't really talk to me, but that's because they're medical doctors. That's not their job. The therapist is supposed to talk to you and
glad
diagnose.
you touched that, because that's the next thing I was about to say. A lot of people feel like a therapist going to medicate you. And that's the first thing that came to my mind. They're like, we taking you to a therapist. And I'm like, I'm not taking no pills.
Yeah.
It was like, yo, it's not about, this person ain't going to prescribe you pills.
Right.
But that's the first thing when I guess TV mess a lot of people up with that.
Exactly.
Like, you feel like you're going to a therapist, you're going to the crazy house, and then they medicating you drugged up. And it's like, that's what I was scared of.
No.
So I'm like, I didn't want to tell this man my problems. The next thing you know, I'm being committed.
Right.
So I kept the demons inside instead of letting them out.
That's an unfortunate thing, and I think that we should definitely do a better job of raising awareness about the difference. As a therapist, I don't recommend any medication because there's so many ways that our minds work and function, that we can cope and deal with things ourselves. But unless it's a client that has like severe schizophrenia, like I've had clients in the office with me like, yeah, JoJo in the corner, he trying to be a part of the therapy session. Get out of here, JoJo, and there's nobody there.
Yeah.
You might need a little bit of medication.
Yeah.
You just might. You just might. But other than that, I wouldn't recommend it just because there's so many ways of coping and tapping into, and I've assisted people with doing therapy. Like, I prefer art and music because that's something that I use. But I've had clients who wanted to do therapy using basketball, using dance, using film, whatever it is, I individualize it for them.
Okay.
So, and you can ask, and I think people a lot of times are scared. When you call a therapist, ask them like, hey, I'm really into basketball. Is there any way we can incorporate this in our therapy? Some therapists will actually meet you at the basketball court, and you could talk about depression in the basketball court.
Okay. For example, somebody like basketball is what gets them through it, or dancing. Mm-hmm. Now, from my last episode, we seen was people that's in a wheelchair. One that said he was an athlete. Mm-hmm. In the case of him, how would that work for him when he used to playing football or playing basketball to get him through like his rough patch?
Right.
How would that work?
So first of all, I would ask, because sometimes people are triggered by trying to do the act that they usually could do when they had that ability. So I would ask first if he was willing to do kind of like a modified version of what he would do if he wanted to incorporate it in it. If that's too much, then maybe we can just, I like sports journalism a lot of times more than I like sports. So maybe we could do something to incorporate in sports journalism. So I would first ask him how he would want to incorporate sports. If he wants to physically do something, or if he wants to incorporate it based on things that he sees or hears, because then that will let me know what is his comfortability with it.
Okay. So now we going to transition to dark to light. Wouldn't have it been a time when you was in the dark and it was hard to see that light, but when you finally seen that light, it felt like that light was just always there. You were just blinded by it.
So I think in between, I think I kind of brush over the in-between time of being in school and transitioning into entrepreneurship. Like I say, it was rough because you don't know what it takes in terms of making a sacrifice to get through clinicals, through things that you need to do for therapy. So I think that even though I was going through school and I know that I was going through a period, I didn't know what it looked like. And even though I knew I wanted to be a therapist, before those classes where I figured out that I can do it my way, I thought I was going to be one of those boring therapists where you just sitting on the couch, and that was making me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I think the light where I was like unblinded was when I realized I could do things my way, and I could make them individualized for anybody who needed something specialized.
Okay. So this is what we gonna do. Normally we do questions or whatever, but we're gonna do something different today.
Okay.
We going to do a session.
Okay.
I'm the patient, you're the therapist.
Okay.
So how will we start off? Knowing my background, knowing what happened to me, how will we start it off?
Okay. So what I would start off with you is share with me a song that tells me how you feeling right now. And let's play it.
How I'm
Let's
feeling
play
right
it.
now. How I'm feeling right now. I would say raw wave, dark clouds.
Okay. Can we play it?
CJ, get the phone. Pull up raw wave, dark clouds. You can do it on the 12 because it's louder.
Now, when this song plays, I want you to do however you feel in the moment. You want to dance, dance. You want to get up, get up. And this is actually a raw wave song I haven't heard, so I'm going to listen to the words, and we'll talk about
Give
it.
me the phone, CJ. I feel like hearing this song just put me in a thinking mode. It just give me time to think because I feel like this song is really like my life. Like I can relate to every song he's saying. Now I'm feeling growing. That it wasn't knowing the secret agenda that they wasn't showing. Niggas that stab you on your back but smile in your face. Niggas that act how they act but they want your place. And they love out their mouth but that shit is fake. I've been looking for peace, begging for space. No, I'm just a nigga trying to win. No, I'm just a nigga so I sin. He spin a block, you spin a block, we spin again. He gotta pray for what he did. I've been feeling pain for so long. I became numb. I make it no better. I give my heart to whoever. They take it and they run. You had me, but you lost me. I'm not mad. I'm exhausted. Please, please, if you come around, help me to make me smile. Dog days. It's so many dog. I said when I hear this song, it definitely put me in that thinking stage. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like it's just dark all around. I feel like I can see, but I'm just in a dark room. It be feeling like somebody took the light bulb out the room. There's no windows. It's just the door locked. It
Tell
just
me
give me
what
time to think.
what does that dark room feel like with no light, no windows?
It felt empty. It's just pretty much, it's so much different emotions around. You got hate from some people, then you got love for some people. Then it's like you question if you should be here or not. Then the flip side is like the podcast is like, damn, it's going good, it's moving good. But then you get thoughts of, is this shit gonna fall soon? Is this the right path I'm going down? If I'm gonna fail soon? Like this song just make you think about different angles.
No, that's a really good song. I think a lot of things came out in it, in that you talked about like who you should trust. And as I look through, I told you I'm a fan. I watch all the shows.
Yeah.
So then when you think about who was there before it happened and who was there after it happened, I can imagine that plays a role in
100%.
just how you move and just who you can trust. And I'm wondering when you feel like you're in that dark space and you feel like, you know, you're kind of going through the motions, you're a father, so you still have life going on, but you're still doing it in the dark.
Yeah, 100%.
Tell me how that feels. It's like still doing life, because sometimes when you think about the dark, I think people think about just being still. You in the dark and moving.
100%. But I be like, in case like that, I took my son bowling yesterday. my son, my niece, and my nephew. We bowling. To them, it's like, it was nothing. Like, we bowling, we laughing, we joking. I'm like, yo, y'all cheating me. But the back of me was like, I cheated them. I feel like the person that shot me cheated my son and my niece. Because these is two people, my niece and my nephew, I never seen before. And my son was just one. So it's like, it's so much I wanted to do with my son, but just never got around to it due to the fact that I'm in a dog. Even though it don't stop me though.
It definitely don't.
I mean, it don't. We still go to the basketball court, be playing all that, but I felt like I'm giving my best, but it's not. It wouldn't have been. It'd have been better if my best, if I could see, pretty much.
If you could say something to the people who you feel have stolen this great deal of your life, and I like that the last podcast you guys said, like, even though you guys are thriving in what you're doing, don't think for a second that if you could change it, that you wouldn't.
100%.
If you could say something to the guys who did this, what would you say?
It's crazy. The therapist I went to asked me that, and it's like I couldn't say nothing to them. I feel like there's so much hate in me, I would try to hurt them.
I think that's honest.
I would want them to feel the pain that I feel.
I think that's honest.
100%.
And what I want you to encourage you to do with that pain, because I told you I was in a state, I know how it feels, where I wasn't thinking of no consequences. I was thinking of the consequences, but I wasn't, because if I would have gotten consequences, I would have been like, all right, at least he's gone.
Yeah.
And I know our situations are not the same, but I think that feeling may be the same.
That hurt inside. Pretty much, I feel like I somewhat like overcame that. Because I felt like if I didn't, I wouldn't have been growing now.
Yeah.
I felt like it took me a long time just to get back into the world, to socialize.
Right.
So for me, I let it go, but it's times where it comes up, and it just make me mad. What could I did different? What if I was the one on the other side of that gun?
Yeah.
How would you feel? It's like so much different mixed emotions that go through my head.
Yeah.
Times like that. Riding past that block is like a cold spirit go through my body.
Right.
And this time I was in the car, they was like, yo, how you know where you at? I said, I feel like I could feel it.
Wow.
For a moment, I told them, I feel like my soul is still out there. Yeah, I just got my body, but my soul's still on that floor.
Wow.
And people looked at me like I was crazy. And I'm like, it's just like I feel a cold spirit going through me, bro.
Yeah.
100%.
You mentioned your niece and your nephew, and you said that your son was 1 year old.
Yeah.
And I think probably the most touching episode I've seen of yours was with you and your son.
Yeah, my dog.
And that's because he don't see no difference.
He definitely don't.
He don't see no difference. To him, you are dad. And I know for you, you feel like you can do like all these things if you didn't have this challenge. But to him, you dad. And I think you asked him a question like, what is it that we can't do because I'm blind? He was like, nothing. We can do anything.
Yeah, he definitely said that. Yesterday, he just robbed me for $20 at a bowling alley. So it's like, he definitely don't see me no different. That's why I said, in that episode, I feel like I'm tripping over and he not.
Yeah.
Because it's like, growing up, like, my father wasn't around. But my stepfather, my grandfather took that. They stepped up to that plate. So shooting that basketball, he showed me, you doing it wrong. You got to shoot like this. You got to do this. You got to do that. And it's like, I can do that with my son, but it ain't 100% because it's like, I really can't show him exactly how to move, how to do it, how to dribble that ball, what you do when something coming towards you. So it's like, I felt like I cheated him with that in certain situations. Or even helping with homework. He tried to read it to me over and over. I got to send it to CJ. And CJ is sending the answer back. I feel like I'm cheating because I'm not the one helping him. I be feeling.
Let me ask you this. What do you think you've given to your son with this challenge that maybe you couldn't have given to him before this?
The experience of having a father. Being in his life every day, every step, teaching him not to give up, different moral. Plus, I feel like I'm a walking lesson. I feel like he looking at me knows that there's no limit to us.
Yeah.
We gonna keep moving.
So I want you to think about this, because I would never tell you that the feeling is going to go away, because I don't know. But I can tell you that when you have those moments where it feels tough, the room feels a little more uncontrollable, think about the fact that you do have your son and you do have people in your life who didn't turn their backs and love you. And that's priceless.
Yeah, definitely 100%.
That you have this amazing podcast, and to see that you are helping people and you had mentioned before, the voice of the disabled, the voice of everybody, because I get something from every show.
Yeah.
So you are helping and inspiring people, and not to say you wasn't going to do that before, but I think you just have a little more motivation.
It definitely is.
And the story of how you got here, just like I told you, like, Dag, I don't even know, it's not one thing. If I just told you the end, like, yeah, I went to class and, then it'll be like, okay, cool. And what? If you just told the end, like, yeah, I just got this podcast and I want to talk to people, about motivation and being confident, and and you didn't take that time to tell the story, would it have had as much impact?
No, it definitely wasn't. And it didn't want to touch a lot of people either.
So,
I feel.
So a lot of bad things happen to
For a
us
reason.
in life.
It's like it's our calling, pretty much.
Yeah, and we don't know why it happened, and we get mad, we get angry, we get anxious, we want to take it back, but it's a part of our journey. And we're going to have those angry feelings. But when you have them, I want you to encourage you to think back, and I want you to think of that song, and that it said, I just want to win.
Yeah, that's
I feel like
the
you
part
winning.
that
I feel
that's
like you
the part
winning.
that stick out
Yeah.
the most. Cause I feel like everything he was saying is like, damn, I've been through that in life.
Yeah.
And it's like, I want to win. How can I win? I've asked myself that, like, how can I win? But then I get a DM like, yeah, podcast touching me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, damn, I'm winning already and don't even know it.
You winning and don't even know it.
I'm like, and that's how I thought about it. My son, like, father, I got 100 on it. I'm like, you got 100 on it? He like, yeah. And I'm like, damn, I'm winning for that because I helped him with that.
Exactly.
So it's like that was moments when I was in a dark, not really knowing that I was really standing in the light, pretty much.
Right.
I definitely see it.
Yeah.
Like, what would you tell somebody that's home going through that but scared to go to a therapist?
I find that people are empowered by knowing that they can choose their therapist. And I think knowing that you have that choice is empowering. So I want to encourage you there are several sites. I do have a few on my site from a few different states. I think I got like 20 different states where there are therapists. If you are looking for somewhere, a good place to go is Psychology Today. They have therapists, they have psychiatrists, and just make calls. Make calls and look at it like somebody. And I tell my clients, I'm your emotional assistant. So I work for you, basically.
Yeah.
So look at it from the perspective of the person that's going to work for you. So I want to encourage you to think about, could I feel happier? Do I want to feel happier? And if so, pick up that phone call. Pick up the phone and just call. If somebody don't work well, do it again. Don't just stop at the one, and ask them very specifically, because this is your life. Whatever you want. I've had clients ask me so many things, and I appreciate it. Like, I've had clients ask me, like, what kind of theories do you use? I'm like, theories? Like, would you even know what theories if I said it? But they looked them up.
Yeah.
Or they'll say, a lot of the clients that I've gotten have said, like, one of the questions that I asked in my assessment was, why did you choose me as a therapist? And a lot of them say, because you Black. Like just simply because of that.
That's how I thought. Like,
Just
I told
simply
my
be-
mother I want a black therapist.
Just that's a huge thing. And black male therapists, and there are a lot of them out here doing like really great work. So Instagram is a good place. A lot of therapists are posting what they're doing on Instagram, and a lot of people are finding their therapists on Instagram. If you go to my page, all you gotta do is go through the people who follow me or who I follow. You're gonna find maybe
right
600 therapists. So they're out there, but just know that you got to find somebody that fits well with you. And if they don't, therapists are trained. This is also something to know. We're trained that if you come to us and it doesn't work well, you tell us you need to go somewhere else, we'll help you find somewhere. Like, that's a part of the training. And I think people think like you're going to hurt somebody's feelings. No, you're not hurting nobody's feelings.
Sometimes
we want you to do well.
It's not strong enough for you.
Yeah, no, we want you to do well. So just, I would say take a chance on yourself, not for nobody else. I would say to that person, take a chance for yourself to invest in yourself, because nobody else is going to do it.
What would you tell the younger you about yourself now?
I definitely would tell her to take that knife out that bag. I would tell her that everything that you have experienced is leading up to a purpose and a journey. And so now when I'm not saying that I get this 100%, and just kind of going back to the questions of like, when you face these things, like, in the moment you feel like mad, you feel angry, you feel like, dag, why I have to deal with this? I would tell her that those moments are going to be the moments that trigger your ultimate happiness and your passion, and to just ride it through. Don't be mad at it. Ride it through.
So all those tough times was worth it.
Yeah,
you're
of
the
course.
person that you is today.
Of course.
Definitely. How can we get more of these programs and in these jails to help out these inmates instead of tearing down them?
A lot of when my husband and I was doing the program at Rikers, it was during the time when they didn't have any programs. And so we kind of got them in a good space where they were like, we need something. So I think that contacting them, like I said, I got Rikers' number off of Google. I had never been there. So I was just watching Law and Order, and, Live and Stabler, they kept saying
that's my favorite show.
Right, they kept saying it. So I was like, I need to Google this. But I would say reach out. I think people don't know that they're accessible. So reach out to them. You got a jail nearby you, develop a program. Don't come there with no mess. Like I came there with a curriculum, and I came there with my own money.
Yeah.
So they had to say no. They had to say yes. So come there with some type of goal, and do it based on not something that you want to do, but something you think that they need. And call the jail and say, hey, I have this. Let me send this information over.
Yeah,
don't be scared.
We definitely need more of those, because I have a friend that's in jail, and I'm talking to him on the phone. I'm like, yo, how you doing? And he hit me with, physically I'm good, but mentally I'm breaking. And it killed me, because I'm like, this is one of my best friends, and like I can't help him because I'm on the other side of the phone, so I don't know what he's going through every day, waking up every day, like missing his kids' birthdays. I can hear it in his voice. It's a different state that he in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, you good? You need something? Nah, he like, nah, I'm good. Because I know he's down.
Yeah.
So I feel like these programs is definitely needed in these jails.
Definitely. And then also, there's just so many layers. Like that's a whole other episode. I ain't even gonna get into the prison system, politics, and all that. Yeah. But they need those programs just simply because of that. Somebody could develop a program just simply to assist people with connecting with their kids on their birthday. Like, I know that in the women's show, they had, like, on Mother's Day, where they had a program that came in and they facilitated, like, a Mother's Day networking for the women. Could do the same thing for Father's Day. Could do the same things simply for kids' birthdays, where a person can develop a program, and here goes some money for y'all if somebody want to do it. Develop a program where it's just simply about having kids maintain that connection with their parents on their birthdays. Those are significant days.
Yeah,
so maybe you go in with like a list of everybody's kid's birthday, and on those birthdays, those are the times that you show up to the prison and just make sure, like, hey, we're gonna get you a little prison cake, bring it in for your family with the candles, but at least that connection won't leave.
Yeah. That kid will always, like, my parent was always there no matter what.
Absolutely. Take a little picture. Even if you gave them 20 minutes, like, that would mean so much.
It definitely will.
So much. So you can create programs like that, and jails and prisons are open to that. They open to that.
Definitely, the world, you hear that? We got to get out there. We got to make it a way, because we can't forget about the people that's behind them walls. Mm-hmm. They made a mistake in life. Everybody deserves a second chance, I feel.
Yeah.
So we definitely got to figure out what we got to do to get that going. And before we get out of there, I want you to definitely put your social media out there, your websites out there, for that person that's on that couch that's going through that and don't know what direction to go in.
Yeah. So for Instagram, it's at Minority Minds Inc. And again, that's Minority and then Minds with a Z, Inc. And then also the website is www.minorityminds.org. And so I look forward to hearing from you guys. If you have questions, feel free to shoot me messages in the DM. If you think that a therapist is good, or you can't find where I say that it is that you can ask the questions, I have no problem with answering you to lead you to the right direction. Know that you'll always have support.
And we definitely going to plug all that information in on the show, so you can find that in YouTube or Apple Podcasts and everything else. And you could definitely go up there and learn about the business, the LLCs and the nonprofits too, because I definitely was on the website.
Yes, I forgot. Yes, we do have how to start LLC and nonprofit, and we also have grant writing.
So that's definitely important. I feel like we need more black businesses out here. We can't stop here. The 9 to 5 is cool, but let's own. It's time to own now.
Yeah.
So I definitely appreciate you definitely being one of the guests. I know I hit you up. You was like, I'm there.
Of course.
Update, what we gonna talk about? I'm like, your life alone, being in the classes, like your life alone definitely could touch somebody. Because it's somebody that's home that went through the same thing you went through and don't know what direction to go in. Yeah. So you might have helped that person that's home right now. Hopefully. Plus, you got people that's about to listen to music and see if they can solve their own therapy problems too.
I mean, you can do that, but it's nice to have a therapist on the side to kind of guide that process.
So don't cheat. You can reach out. You can DM her. She put it out there for you. Yeah. Definitely. I definitely appreciate you, and I just want to give you your roses because you definitely been a part of this journey. I've been going in. Thank you. I called my mother. My mother's like, I'm going to ask her. She called back. Oh, she gonna call you. I'm like, all right. And every time you definitely did call, you text. I even hit you up about the business classes, and you were like, oh, well, we gonna do a session. Come in. We came in when we couldn't do it in person. We did it on Zoom.
Yeah, and you inspired me to start it back up.
Yeah, that was definitely well needed. Definitely connected to people across the world. Yeah, knowing that what they got going on. I feel like we definitely need more of that. That can encourage a person to push gas on their dreams and goals even more. Right. So we definitely want to give you your flowers on the Blind Banana C show.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Because you definitely somebody that's well needed in this world. Well, and we need more. We definitely need more of you.
Thank you. Don't make me cry.
Nah, we only can tell the truth. This show is all about the truth. So until next week, step big, blind stepper, blind Papi, I'm here. We out.